corruption scandal. When a certain question was put to opposition leader Mark Golding, his response was as follows. The mayor has made it clear what exactly the funds were at his disposal, and they were deployed in 3 divisions that did not have a councillor. So there is absolutely nothing untoward about this and an attempt to create a scandal where none exists. This is just a distraction. So as you have heard, the opposition leader was quite flippant and dismissive in his response to a very pertinent question of governance and issue concentrating and occupying the minds of many Jamaicans this morning when he spoke at that press conference last Thursday. What the PNP president did not acknowledge in that public statement, is that public statements made by Lawrence Rowe, who was in the PNP's inner sanctum, perhaps Mark Golding's inner circle, has flatly rejected the mayor's explanation as lacking credibility. Lawrence Rowe has clearly asserted that KSAMC funds were handed to a raft of PNP political operatives and that the transactions were done on the premises of the KSAMC. It is our information that millions of dollars from the KSAMC were expended, including in several Kingston and St. Andrew constituencies, where some PNP caretakers are seeking to become members of parliament when the general election is held. In some cases, some PNP caretakers collected the monies themselves, and in other instances, they sent agents or representatives or close associates of theirs so to do. Therefore, we are not surprised by the bold statement made recently by Lawrence Rowe when he said the claim by Mayor Swaby that no KSAMC funds were expended to support PNP political representatives lacks credibility. The Jamaica Labour Party notes as well that the PNP president refused to acknowledge the undisputed and incontrovertible fact that his embattled General Secretary, the CEO of the PNP, Dr. Dayton Campbell, was asked directly about distribution of KSAMC funds to PNP caretakers. In a leaked conversation, the embattled PNP General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell, was heard in a voice note played by the media suggesting that the KSAMC was strategically distributing the funds and giving more to PNP caretakers in divisions where they expect the calling of a by-election compared to what was allocated to other PNP representatives in other spaces where there is no impending by-election. In his response to questions about the PNP KSAMC corruption scandal, Mark Golding also refused to acknowledge that his party member, the mayor of Kingston, was heard on tape published by the media saying that in December 2024, he moved to offer assistance to various elements in a partisan manner in a bid to ensure the PNP was electorally successful in central Kingston and to prevent him, Andrew Swaby, since his Vineyardtown division borders central Kingston. Mayor Swaby was heard boasting that he took this approach of coordinating the strategic and partisan distribution of resources far and wide. And those were his exact words in that audio, far and wide. The leaked audio contradicts Mayor Swaby's previous claim that resources were distributed fairly and on a non-partisan basis. The audio disclosed by the media also exposes as hollow and quite baseless Mayor Andrew Swaby's frequent use of buzz phrases, such buzz phrases as transparency, accountability, and the principles of good governance to describe the PNP's current stewardship of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, consequent on the foregoing, the Jamaica Labour Party wishes to observe the following. The Jamaica Labour Party finds the response of the PNP President Mark Golding to the KSAMC PNP corruption scandal contemptuous of the Jamaican people, dismissive, and downright disgraceful, but not altogether surprising. The response is confirmation that Mark Golding is willing to turn a blind eye to seriously questionable activities by the PNP-controlled KSAMC and perhaps other PNP officials, which the party secretariat clearly has knowledge of. The unbecoming response from Mark Golding has again confirmed to Jamaica that he is not fit to lead this country. He says one thing, he professes to be an advocate and committed to the principles of good governance, but his actions suggest quite another. We insist that Mark Golding immediately tells Jamaica whether he has demanded an explanation from his embattled General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell, as to why Campbell told Lawrence Rowe that the KSAMC was distributing monies strategically in anticipation of the calling of by-elections. And hence, that's why some PNP political representatives got more KSAMC resources compared to what others would have gotten. The fact that Golding has not by now fired his General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell, and insisted on Campbell's removal from his position as a commissioner at the Electoral Commission of Jamaica is further confirmation that Mark Golding is not serious when he claims to support and adhere to the principles of good governance and accountability, particularly among elected representatives and those persons who hold to high standards by the Jamaican people. Mark Golding must also tell Jamaica whether he has demanded an explanation from a former PNP councillor who is now stationed at the KSAMC as to why, in a leaked conversation, she told a then PNP caretaker to collect cash and that development is, quote, not for public knowledge, end quote. The fact that Mark Golding did not see it fit to indicate to the country that he insisted on explanations from his embattled General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell, Mayor of Kingston, Andrew Swaby, and the former KSAMC councillor, Mrs. Facey, for the questionable comment shows his own contempt for the people of Jamaica. The PNP President Mark Golding clearly feels his party is able to do what it feels and somehow get a free pass. In light of the conflicting statements issued by Mayor Swaby and the leaked audio of conversations which have given rise to the PNP KSAMC corruption scandal, the Jamaica Labour Party calls for the immediate resignation of Mayor of Kingston, Andrew Swaby. He must demit office as Mayor of Kingston and, I dare say, Chairman of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. And we believe he should do so soonest. We do not believe that Swaby has any moral authority left and can be trusted to govern the affairs of the KSAMC in a fair, equitable, transparent, and accountable manner. The Jamaica Labour Party also welcomes word in the media that at least 3 law enforcement agencies are now reviewing information concerning this sordid and scandalous KSAMC PNP corruption affair. It is not far-fetched to imagine that such an investigation would naturally include a review of the leaked WhatsApp conversations and exported WhatsApp chats where PNP officials, including the PNP's embattled General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell, the Mayor of Kingston, Andrew Swaby, and other senior PNP politicians were discussing the use of resources in December of 2024 and issues which have culminated this year in the PNP KSAMC corruption scandal.
Thank you very much, Senator Morgan. A number of serious issues raised by Senator Morgan concerning the PNP KSAMC corruption scandal. Before we take questions from the media, I believe the Member of Parliament for West Rural St. Andrew, Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn, has a few questions of her own concerning this PNP KSAMC corruption scandal. MP Cuthbert-Flynn, over to you.
Thank you so much, Senator Apcoff Henley. Good morning, members of the media and those listening on the social media platform. And as stated by Senator, I have a few questions regarding the constituency of which I represent St. Andrew West Rural. My presence this morning is to ask a few direct questions of Mayor Swaby, the PNP General Secretary Dayton Campbell, and the PNP President Mark Golding. And number one is stated, are you aware of a contractual arrangement between the KSAMC and a PNP political operative in my constituency that I represent of St. Andrew, West Rural? Number two, are they aware that under the arrangement, checks are disbursed and monies paid by the KSAMC on a monthly basis to the PNP political operative? And number three, are they aware that the political operative that's operating in West Rural St. Andrew has been encashing the checks and passing the proceeds on to another PNP operative in West Rural St. Andrew? I insist that the PNP President, the PNP General Secretary, and Mayor Swaby tell the country whether they are aware of this arrangement and explain why the payments are being made. Thank you.
Thank you, MP. Well, in light of the foregoing, a number of issues have emerged, including the pattern that the KSAMC has been distributing resources and access to work in a partisan, unfair, and vulgar political manner. And the Jamaica Labour Party has this morning asserted that we find the response of the PNP President Mark Golding, who suggested that the scandal is much ado about nothing, as contemptuous of the people of Jamaica, and quite frankly, arrogant and unacceptable. And the Jamaica Labour Party has called for the resignation of the chairman of the KSAMC, who happens to be the mayor of Kingston, Andrew Swaby, in light of a number of conflicting statements, which quite frankly renders not credible his assertion that the KSAMC has been distributing benefits and resources in a fair, non-partisan, and impartial manner. We invite questions now from members of the media. I'm going to ask you to identify yourself, the media entity from whence you come, and pose your question. Thank you.
All right, good morning. So based on my position, I can't necessarily stand. Okay, my name is Trisha Gay Kelly from CVM. You mentioned that there are a few people who would have received assistance from the KSAMC, and that was after the KSAMC learned that they were PNP members, right?
Accurate.
Right. So my question is there any instance in which JLP members were turned back, or they learned that they were JLP members and decided they were not going to assist?
Well, what we are aware of is emerging information, conversations between the mayor's administrative staffers and PNP caretakers, where systematically the question was asked of the caretakers whether people who sought assistance are aligned to the PNP before a decision was made to assist. We find this systematic approach as confirmation that the KSAMC is approaching the affairs of governance and distribution of resources in a manner that is unacceptable, questionable, and flies in the face of principles of impartiality and fairness, which should govern the use of public funds.
All right, so my follow-up question then is regarding the divisions. Mayor Swaby mentioned that had he been partisan in his distribution, then no JLP divisions would have gotten any of the money. Could you clarify or respond to that?
No, that's not an accurate statement by the mayor. Quite frankly, when a division is unoccupied, he is under an obligation to ensure that the resources are fairly and impartially distributed. It's not a matter of His Worship, the Mayor of Kingston, doing a favor to constituencies which were formerly, or divisions which were formerly represented by the Jamaica Labour Party representatives, and there is now a vacancy. So quite frankly, the comments by the mayor suggesting that he should be applauded for what he suggests acts of fairness lack credibility, to use the words of the erstwhile PNP caretaker for Central Kingston, Lawrence Rowe.
All right, so before I hand it over, I have one final question. He also mentioned in that statement that the Prime Minister's division as well as Minister Mackenzie's division were also given money. So outside of the unoccupied divisions, could you respond to that aspect of it?
That act is part of the function of the mayor, or the laws which govern local government, where when there's a vacancy in a division, the mayor assumes the function of caretaker. So this is not a situation where Mayor Swaby did a favor to the divisions which were unoccupied in terms of representation at the municipal corporation level. He claims that he carried out his duties and he should be applauded for that. I believe that should be standard practice. What we have called into question here this morning is emerging evidence where members of the mayor's administrative team are on record as seeking to find out the political persuasion of individuals who are in need of assistance before deciding whether to render such assistance. Such an approach is unacceptable, and quite frankly, it contradicts the mayor's assertion that he's been presiding over a corporation which has been treating with public funds and resources and access to work in a fair and transparent manner. The mayor's explanation, quite frankly, lacks credibility.
All right, and my final question is, if the opposition leader does not respond to your suggestion to have the mayor resign in a satisfactory manner, what are you guys calling for?
Well, first of all, we have highlighted the considerable contempt for the people of Jamaica that was exhibited by opposition leader Mark Golding last Thursday. Yes, we have made certain calls on him this morning, and the truth of the matter is that to the extent that he fails to respond to those calls, I would like to remind him that the people of Jamaica are looking on. The electorate will have a determination to make in the weeks and months ahead, and it cannot be that on the one hand, he is professing to be committed to the principles of good governance and accountability in public office. But whenever instances arise that suggest that his own members, particularly senior officials in the PNP, fall short of the expected standards of probity and good governance, his response is a non-response. It cannot be that the opposition leader presents the hand of Esau but speaks with the voice of Jacob. That is untenable, and we have seen it several times in the past in relation to an unfortunate comment made by the Mandeville Mayor, Donovan Mitchell, where he mentioned that there's nothing wrong with unexplained wealth. Nothing is wrong with unexplained wealth, he said, and we have seen where his embattled General Secretary has been embroiled in this PNP KSAMC corruption scandal, and we have seen no action from Mark Golding. So you're either fish or fowl. You must either put up or, of course, take yourself and step aside.
Chef about nationwide news. Just a quick question. Just a quick question. The matter regarding the KSAMC mayor's most recent statement addressed the KSAMC last week, suggesting that in one instance there were funds that he had privately raised that were dispersed as he saw fit, compared to his initial statement when he suggested that there were no cash disbursements. You find that no clarity on that?
We find that statement by Mayor Swaby concerning privately raised funds, that it lacks credibility. And I invite you to observe an emerging pattern. The General Secretary of the PNP was asked by a PNP caretaker about why more monies were sent to other PNP caretakers than sums which were sent to him. And the General Secretary of the PNP said, this is why they, in an obvious reference to the KSAMC, sent more funds to other PNP representatives compared to you, it is because by-elections are expected. In other words, Dr. Dayton Campbell asserted that it was a strategic move by the KSAMC led by Mayor Swaby in terms of the proportion of funds sent to various PNP representatives. Then audio emerges of Mayor Swaby on December 31, approximately 8 days after that conversation involving Dayton Campbell and the PNP caretaker, boasting about how he strategically distributed funds in order to shore up the PNP's chances of winning Central Kingston. There appears to be an emerging pattern of strategic, to put it at its minimum, unacceptable, and lack of partiality concerning the use of resources by the KSAMC. We find highly questionable and lacking in credibility the mayor's suggestion that the monies referred to were not public funds. And therefore we call for his resignation this morning because we are not confident in his ability to govern the affairs of the KSAMC in a fair and impartial manner.
Okay, no worries. So for you, Senator Morgan, you indicated that a member of the administrative staff of the mayor's administrative staff sought to find out the political affiliation of persons who came for services. Can you speak to the specific services that those persons were seeking to access? That's one. And then two, can you date the communication for us, the communication that you say that you're in possession of? Can you give us an indication of what time frame we're talking about? And also, can you indicate how that communication came into your possession? That's 3 questions. And then for MP, I just ask them and then you can respond. Can you give us some more details about those contractual arrangements that you spoke to? Whether or not we're talking about elected officials, what is the contract for? If you could just share a little bit more information about the particular contract that you referenced, I would appreciate it. Thanks very much.
So just to be clear, Laverne, and thank you for the questions you have posed. The gravamen of our angst, and indeed it should be the angst of Jamaicans generally, we should all find it disturbing that there is even a hint of consideration for people's political affiliation when determining access to benefits. In this instant case, it was essentially the undertaking of works that were involved, because what we had before us was a scenario in which names were advanced for consideration, and there was an apparent screening, a vulgar partisan screening of these names to essentially have persons be satisfied that the names being advanced are in fact persons who are PNP supporters as opposed to being JLP supporters. And as far as we in the Jamaica Labour Party are concerned, when we're dealing with and presiding over the expenditure of public funds, the distribution of the resources and the expending of public funds should have no regard to people's political affiliation. And it is for this reason why whenever the government of Jamaica comes to the parliament with any announcement of any allocation of resources for intervention on the part of elected officials, the support that is allocated, the support that is extended is across the board. JLP members of parliament and PNP members of parliament benefit from the same allocation. There's no regard to political affiliation.
And to answer your question a bit further, Laverne, and I'll speak slowly that you're able to make notes if you fancy. The conversation we refer to, October 30, 2024, at 11:24 in the morning. The senior administrative staffer at the KSAMC, who works on behalf of the Mayor of Kingston, His Worship Andrew Swaby, inquired about the names of several people who had applied for work at the Victoria Palace, 14 to 18 Victoria Avenue, the beautification of apartments project. And the administrative staffer of His Worship the Mayor inquired of the PNP caretaker whether these individuals who sought assistance and work, paid work from the KSAMC, whether they are PNP or JLP supporters, and intimated that the PNP caretaker should make sure that they are supporters of the PNP. We find this approach to the allocation of work and or benefits by the KSAMC be scandalous, inappropriate, and that they contradict the claim by His Worship the Mayor that the KSAMC under his stewardship has been taking a fair and impartial approach to the use of public funds at the People's Corporation. At 11:24 in the morning. You had asked an interesting question, Laverne, regarding how did we come into possession of the information, and you said the conversation. At no time you would note that Marlon had indicated that we are in possession of the documentation. He indicated that we have seen correspondence and conversations. That's one. And like a good journalist would, we don't disclose our sources. I know you would appreciate that, Liver. I haven't seen you in these parts for a while, but we appreciate your presence.
Oh, for me. Thank you. But again, as you heard, Senator stated that conversations, I think, were heard in the public domain regarding this same contractual arrangement in the same voice clip and also via text. And it is concerning to me regarding this possible arrangement happening in West Rural St. Andrew. In 2007, and as a representative, I want to make sure going into a political year, we're campaigning now, pretty much soft campaigning, or campaigning nevertheless, that in 2007, an unfortunate incident took place in West Rural in the Brandon Hill division where the then Prime Minister was campaigning and gunshots were fired at the convoy. I want to make sure since that time, nothing has really happened. West Rural has been very quiet during the political season of 2016 and also the political season of 2020. I want to make sure as a representative, because persons are nervous about these voice notes coming out, these things that we're hearing in the media regarding the possibility of funds and arrangements of monies being transferred in West Rural St. Andrew. And so as a representative and a caring representative, I want to make sure that these questions that I asked this morning, that they are answered.
Trevor.
This is a more general question rather than one specific to the KSAMC. Mr. Golding, as in Mark Golding, has suggested that the government is to an extent responsible for what has happened at SSL and the inability for sprint legend Usain Bolt to be reimbursed his money. How does the JLP respond to that issue raised by the PNP president?
Well, Siobhan, I had anticipated that question being asked, and the answer is at a later date, the Jamaica Labour Party will issue a statement concerning the attempt by Mark Golding to seek political clout in a situation that concerns the very unfortunate circumstance which touch and concern the investment of one of Jamaica's finest sons. I promise you, we'll issue a statement in the coming days about the vulgar and inappropriate comments made by Mark Golding about the unfortunate situation concerning the investment of the great and iconic Jamaica. That's the extent of our comment this morning.
Thank you.
Very much, ladies and gentlemen of the media and all who attended upon this media conference of the Jamaica Labour Party. We thank you for your support. Thank you for your patience.